My family completely took over my long-awaited vacation plans, turning them into yet another trip dedicated to my golden child sister and her kids. But this time, I wasn't going to let them ruin everything. I had a secret escape plan of my own, and they never saw it coming. Reddit, I need some perspective. I'm 35, and I'm asking for advice about a family issue that's been building for decades. Even though I grew up in a typical suburban Massachusetts home, there was one constant problem. My older sister Kate, who's 42, was always the golden child. Our house was essentially a shrine to her achievements, with every wall showcasing her awards and every conversation revolving around her. I still remember how, when I turned 10, my parents were so wrapped up getting Kate ready for her college interviews that they forgot to get me a birthday cake. They even tried to pass off her leftover graduation cake, still stamped with her name, as mine. As I got older, every big moment in my life was overshadowed by Kate's accomplishments. When she made the debate team, my parents barely noticed I made the honor roll in middle school. When I won a local painting competition in high school, they couldn't even celebrate properly because Kate was off touring college campuses. I learned pretty soon that if I celebrated my own achievements, all I'd get was a quick "that's nice, dear" before the conversation switched back to Kate, so I started keeping my victories private. Even our belongings made it clear whose needs mattered most. Kate always had the latest gadgets, trendy clothes, and everything required for her many activities, while my room was full of hand-me-downs. When I wanted music lessons, I had to settle for Kate's old, oversized violin, along with her outdated clothes and school supplies. The violin was practically impossible to play because it was too big for me, and when I asked for one that fit, my mom reminded me how much we'd already spent on Kate's piano lessons that year. The same pattern continued through high school. I was forced to use library books for studying, while Kate got private tutoring for her SATs. When she needed a car for college, my parents took out a loan for her. If I needed help getting around, I was told to take the bus. Every financial decision, family discussion, and holiday plan centered on Kate's needs. Even in college, while she earned her degree from a prestigious university with full parental support, when it was my turn, they said, "We're still paying off Kate's student loans. You'll have to figure it out on your own." I ended up juggling 2 part-time jobs and often dozed off over my textbooks, while Kate kicked off her career with a job our parents helped her secure through their contacts. Then, 7 years ago, when Kate got married, everything shifted, or rather, it got even worse. Our entire family focus switched to her over-the-top wedding, complete with a designer gown, a lavish venue, and over 300 guests. Despite worries about the cost, my parents took out another loan and insisted nothing was too extravagant for her special day. Naturally, I was assigned as maid of honor, forced to coordinate bridal showers, plan a lavish bachelorette party, and handle every minor crisis. When I told my mom how stressed I was from balancing all this with a full-time job, she simply said, "Don't be selfish, Elizabeth, this is your sister's special time." Not long after, when Kate announced she was expecting twins, our parents, even while still paying off the wedding loan, helped with a down payment on a nearby home. I watched them spend their so-called untouchable retirement funds, the same money they wouldn't use for my college help, on what they called an investment for future grandchildren. And then came the babysitting. It started with a casual, "Elizabeth, can you watch the boys for a few hours?" and soon turned into a weekly, then nightly, expectation whenever they had appointments. My parents insisted this was simply what family does. Kate and her husband Jack assumed I'd always be available to help. Even though I love them, the constant routine with the energetic 7-year-old twins is draining. Every weekend, without warning, Kate drops them off at my tiny apartment, claiming she needs me time or has urgent errands to run. When I try to set boundaries or ask for a heads up, Kate ends up in tears over feeling overwhelmed, and my parents call me unsupportive. I had been putting in extra hours to build my marketing career and even received a promotion offer that meant longer hours and more travel. Instead of celebrating my success, my mom immediately asked, "But what about the twins? Your sister needs you here." Kate added, "You can't take that job, Elizabeth. Who's going to help with the boys?" When I mentioned this at a family dinner, hoping for some congratulations, it felt like my work and life didn't matter. My dad insisted, family comes first, and my mom argued, "Your sister has 2 kids, you have no idea what being tired is." When I tried to explain how overwhelmed I was, Kate accused me of being jealous of her life and kids, saying, "You're just bitter because you're still single," as if my marital status defined my worth. After one particularly exhausting weekend with the twins, who even managed to damage my laptop and leave permanent stains on my couch, I decided last month to treat myself to a beach vacation. I found a small, unpretentious resort in Florida that promised a peaceful escape. When I mentioned it at our weekly family dinner, my mom's eyes lit up. "Oh, that's perfect. We should all go together. The twins would love the beach." Before I could protest, Kate had already begun planning events, insisting, "You can take the boys swimming while Jack and I enjoy some alone time," as if my trip was meant to be a childcare duty. And of course, my parents even offered to upgrade my reservation to a fancy resort where they'd all stay, completely ignoring that this vacation was meant for me. That night, as I lay in bed, I made a decision that changed everything. I secretly booked a separate resort on a quiet island, keeping my plans hidden from everyone. I began preparing quietly, taking time off work, packing my belongings, and making sure my emergency fund was ready, even though it felt a bit dishonest. I simply couldn't take it anymore. At the airport, while my family was headed to Florida, I boarded a flight to a completely different destination. I turned off my location sharing, bracing myself for the inevitable backlash. Yes, I know there will be drama and upset feelings, but for the first time in my life, I want to put myself first. For 35 years, I've been the reliable sister, perfect daughter, and always available aunt, sacrificing my social life, weekends, and personal needs. I've missed out on dating and passed up opportunities because I was always on call. Now, I'm done being taken advantage of. This isn't just a vacation, it's a turning point to set clear boundaries with my family and maybe even take a complete break from them. So, Reddit, what should I do? Am I overreacting, or is it okay to want something different for my life? Should I just keep playing their role and accept my place in the family? Update: I really appreciate all the help and guidance since my last post. A lot has happened, and here's how it went. Everything went according to plan, although the day at the airport was more emotional than I expected. I purposely chose a check-in station far away from where my family was. Arriving early, I watched them come through the glass doors of the terminal, Jack checking their bookings, my parents beaming with excitement, and Kate handling everything while the twins and Kate were lugging their bags. I slipped through security for my flight. As they headed to check in and noticed I wasn't at our gate, my phone started buzzing. The first message, confused and brief, asked, "Where are you?" "We're at gate B12. Soon after came anxious texts, "How are you? Elizabeth, something happened," and then angry ones, "How could you treat us like this?" The guys were in tears. Before I boarded, I turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I felt a strange mix of liberation and guilt, a feeling I'd carried for so long. Yet the freedom was thrilling. The tourist-packed destination they were bound for was nothing like the quiet island where my resort lay. The moment I stepped on the beach, years of tension melted away. No twins to babysit, no family dramas, no strict schedule, just the ocean, me, and complete freedom. Still, the first couple of days were hard. I kept glancing at the clock, remembering how the twins would normally be eating lunch or how Kate would need an assistant to put them to bed at this hour. Breaking decades of conditioning isn't easy. Then, on the third day, I began trying things I'd always dreamed of but never had time for. I adored every minute of a silly yet fun surfing lesson, made friends with fellow travelers in a beachside yoga class, and even went on a spontaneous dinner date with an intriguing man I met at the resort's coffee shop. Even though it was just a casual meal, it reminded me that I could live life on my own terms, separate from my family. When I finally turned my phone back on after 5 days, it was the real test. Dozens of voicemails, over 300 texts, and 147 missed calls greeted me. My mother had even called my workplace to report a family emergency. Luckily, I'd already told my supervisor I was on vacation. I listened to some of the messages, my mom's tone shifting from worry to rage and then to manipulation. "Elizabeth, how could you leave your family like this? The twins are inconsolable. Did we raise you wrong?" Kate's texts were even harsher. "You've ruined everything. The boys need Aunt Lizzie. I can't handle meetings by myself." Then one message from my dad caught me off guard. For once, he sounded unsure as he said, "Elizabeth, please let us know you're safe, even though I don't understand what's happening." I'd never heard him speak without immediately defending Kate or pushing me to do more. So I replied in our family group chat with one simple message, "I'm having a great vacation and I'm safe. I'll get in touch when I return. Please give me some space." I then shut down the conversation and spent the next 5 days in a life-changing way. Besides reading bedtime stories to the twins, I finished 3 novels and enjoyed uninterrupted chats with other guests each evening. Instead of rushing home to help with baths and bedtime, I watched sunsets to process years of repressed feelings and even started journaling. One night at a quaint beachside eatery, an older waitress noticed I was alone and asked if I was okay with my solitude. After I briefly explained my situation, she said, "Family is important, honey, but not at the expense of your own well-being. Sometimes putting yourself first is the bravest thing you can do." When I got back home, I didn't go straight to my apartment. I needed time to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. I booked a hotel room for 2 nights, updated my work emergency contacts, changed my door locks, and, most importantly, put my boundaries in writing. A mishap on social media, a mistaken like on a coworker's post, told my family I was back. Within hours, my mom and Kate showed up at my apartment building, buzzing my intercom nonstop. I watched them from my hotel window, feeling oddly detached from their dramatic performance. I decided to confront them the next day at a neutral coffee shop, not at my place. I know it won't be easy, and just thinking about it makes my hands tremble, but for the first time, I'm choosing myself. Despite the worry, guilt, and the drama that's sure to follow, I know this is right. I'll update you after my talk with them. I'm grateful to Reddit for giving me the confidence to take this first step toward independence. Second update, as promised, my family and I met at the coffee shop, and things were even more intense than I expected. I arrived early and chose a corner table with a clear view of the door and the emergency exit, a habit born from years of family drama. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold my coffee. Soon, my parents, Kate, and surprisingly Jack appeared. I was relieved there were no twins. I raised my hand and said what I'd practiced: I'm setting boundaries, and they are non-negotiable. What followed in the next 2 hours was a master class in emotional manipulation. Kate burst into tears, describing how my absence had traumatized the twins. My mom tried to make me feel guilty by reminding me of all they'd done for me. Then Jack unexpectedly tried to mediate, suggesting I only see the kids every other weekend. My dad mostly sat silently, looking uncomfortable. When Kate declared, "You're being selfish, family means sacrifice," something inside me snapped. I calmly responded, "Yes, family means sacrifice, but it should work both ways. When was the last time any of you sacrificed anything for me?" The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time, I laid everything out: the years of feeling like I was just a backup to Kate, the unfair financial treatment, and the constant belief that my time wasn't as valuable as theirs. I even showed them my calendar from the past year, where every weekend was reserved for babysitting and every holiday was planned around their needs. When my mom tried to interject with, "But that's what aunts do," I boldly replied, "No, that's what paid babysitters do." I added, "And Kate, if you need this much help, maybe it's time to hire someone." After that, the conversation took a different turn. My mom and Kate hurriedly left, while a surprisingly remorseful Jack stayed behind and admitted that they had taken advantage of my constant availability. After a long pause, my dad said, "We never meant to make you feel this way." It meant something, but it wasn't a real apology. I stuck to my plan. Once they left, I moved to a different part of the city and got a new apartment. It's smaller than my old place, but it's in a secure building with a doorman who knows about my situation. Now, only my workplace and a few close friends have my new number. Rebuilding my life from scratch wasn't about the move or the planning, it was about finding myself again after years of always being there for my family. So I started small. I signed up for pottery classes, joined a local book club, and accepted dinner invitations from coworkers I'd always turned down. That first weekend of real freedom was strange and wonderful. I did things I once thought impossible: staying up late, visiting a farmer's market, and spending hours browsing in a bookstore. There were no urgent texts from Kate, no guilt-laden calls from Mom, and no last-minute babysitting requests. My family's reaction to my move was harsh, but not unexpected. When my mom tried calling me through my company's switchboard, they discovered my new job doesn't allow personal calls during work hours. Once, Kate even showed up at my office, but security was alerted beforehand. Later, she sent a tearful letter accusing me of tearing our family apart. Then came an unexpected twist: Jack emailed an apology for his role in all this. Initially, Kate had objected to him taking the twins to weekend events, but she's since come to terms with it. It's a small change, yet an important one. My parents are still struggling to adjust. Dad occasionally texts in awkward attempts at conversation, while Mom swings between angry outbursts and icy silence. Last week, she left a voicemail saying, "When you're done with this rebellion, we'll welcome you back." This isn't a phase. She just doesn't get it. My new reality is this: without constant family interruptions, my work has improved dramatically. I'm more productive and focused than ever. I've been given a big new project at work, a role I haven't had in years, and I'm also casually dating, though I'm taking my time. Internally, everything has shifted. The constant low-level anxiety that used to shadow me is gone. I now exercise more, eat better, and sleep soundly. My therapist confirms that starting therapy has helped me recover from what she calls chronic family stress syndrome. Last weekend, one of the twins sent me a gift with handmade notes saying how much they miss me. Even though it was bittersweet, I stayed strong and wrote back carefully. I explained that while I love them, I need some space to take care of myself, even if Kate probably never shows them my letter. Yesterday, an old friend told me, "You look so much lighter now, you seem years younger." She was right. Despite an angry text, some emotional manipulation, and lingering guilt, I feel freer. Family love shouldn't feel like a trap. I'm learning that respecting personal space, acknowledging our own needs, and offering mutual help, rather than constant self-sacrifice, are the true marks of love. Next week, my new apartment will be 1 month old. For the first time ever, I'm hosting a small housewarming party, with a few friends from pottery class, my book club, and work. No expectations, no drama, no family, just people who accept me for who I am. I'll update you all again soon. I'm thankful to Reddit for giving me the courage to make this life change. It's been 3 life-changing months, and I want to share how everything fell into place. The confrontation I'd been both dreading and expecting happened last week when my father unexpectedly visited my workplace. Unlike Kate's manipulative tactics or my mother's frantic attempts, he simply asked if we could have lunch. Calm and almost resigned, we met at a quiet spot near my office. For the first time, he saw me truly as his daughter, not as Kate's sister or the family's backup plan. In a surprised tone, he said, "You look healthy," a comment that carried the weight of years of unnoticed sadness. Before this meeting, the family had offered him a proposal. They were willing to make compromises if I returned to my old role in the family, like having every other weekend off, even paying me for time with the twins as if that could make the sacrifice appealing. But looking him in the eye, I realized they never saw my independence as a right, only as a bargaining chip. I told him, "I'm not negotiating my freedom, I'm living it." That lunch turned into the most honest conversation I've ever had with my father. I explained how their relentless focus on Kate had hurt me both emotionally and practically. I reminded him of forgotten memories, overlooked dreams, ignored achievements, and missed birthdays. He listened quietly for a long time without defending their choices. Finally, he said, "We thought we were doing what was best for the family, we never realized how much we were hurting you." It wasn't a full apology, but it was the first time I felt truly seen. When he asked about my new life, that was the turning point. For the first time, he really listened as I talked about my pottery lessons, my career progress, and the new people I've met, even showing him pictures of a vase I built. I was stunned when he replied, "You've built a good life for yourself without us," his voice mixing both pride and sorrow. By the end of lunch, we both agreed that nothing would ever be the same. He gave me his first genuine hug in years as we said goodbye, adding, "I hope someday we can be part of your life again, but on new terms." That moment seemed to spark one final round of family conflict. After our lunch, my mother started another wave of emotional attacks, telling everyone I needed an intervention because I was breaking down. Meanwhile, Kate has been posting passive-aggressive comments online about selfish sisters and broken families, feeling betrayed by our father's support of my choices. The difference now is that none of it affects me the way it used to. I've gained a new perspective, a view that their actions are simply attempts to control someone who has finally reclaimed their freedom. My new apartment truly feels like home. I've decorated it with my pottery and photos of my chosen family, friends who respect my independence and boundaries. At work, I've started mentoring newer colleagues, breaking the cycle of toxic support that once held me back. I even have more control over my time, weekends are mine, I'm learning Spanish, I've joined a local hiking group, and I'm dating someone who honors my limits. For the first time, I'm building a life that reflects who I truly am, not what my family expects of me. Just last Sunday, one of the twins sent a homemade card, clearly written under supervision, with sad words about missing their aunt. In the past, that would have sent me spiraling into doubt and regret. Instead, I replied with a firm yet gentle note, explaining that while I might not be involved every day, my love remains unchanged, and that sometimes adults need to find their own way. According to my therapist, I'm showing what she calls post-traumatic growth. I'm not just moving on, I'm creating something stronger and healthier. She's helped me see that I'm not responsible for fixing my family's dysfunction. The latest twist came yesterday. Jack, Kate's husband, called to say that my new stance has even changed things at home. Not blaming me, he explained that they've finally hired part-time help for the twins, and he's become a more active parent. Jack believes this change benefits everyone, though Kate is still struggling to adjust. Now, as I sit in my home office preparing for a business trip next week, a step I would have never taken before, I glance at a framed quote on the wall behind my desk: "Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is set yourself free." I want to thank everyone who supported me and followed my story. You gave me the strength to make my own choices. If you're wondering whether people in similar situations are selfish for wanting their own lives, remember, choosing freedom isn't selfish, taking care of yourself isn't unkind, and setting boundaries is not betrayal. I don't know how my family relationships will evolve, but maybe one day we can connect on terms of mutual respect rather than obligation. For now, I'm focused on nurturing the life I've built, my friends, my passions, my work, and most importantly, my sense of self. This isn't an ending, it's just the beginning. I'm excited for what comes next. Over the next few months, life continued to unfold in ways I never expected. My business trip was a success, opening doors for new career opportunities. I finally felt like I was in control of my own life, setting goals and achieving them without the weight of my family's expectations holding me back. My friendships deepened, my pottery skills improved, and my sense of independence grew stronger. Then, one evening, I received an email from my father. It was short and direct, but different from the messages I had come to expect from my family. "I've been thinking a lot since our lunch. I'm not sure if I'll ever fully understand everything, but I do see now that we never gave you the space to be your own person. I won't ask you to come back into the fold, but if you ever want to talk, I'd like to listen this time. No expectations. Just you and me." I stared at the screen for a long time. It wasn't a plea or an attempt at guilt-tripping, it was the closest thing to a genuine attempt at reconnection on my terms. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I took my time to think about what I really wanted. Therapy had taught me that forgiveness wasn't about excusing the past, but about freeing myself from it. I wasn't ready to let my family back in completely, but maybe, just maybe, there was a way to build something new with my father, something separate from the old dynamic. A week later, I replied, "Thank you for reaching out. I don't know where this will lead, but I appreciate you trying. We can take things one step at a time." That was the beginning of a slow, careful rebuilding. My father and I met occasionally for coffee, keeping things light and pressure-free. He didn't push, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I could speak without fear of being dismissed. He even asked about my pottery again, and when I told him I had started selling some of my pieces, he smiled, a real, proud smile. As for my mother and Kate, things remained tense. Kate continued her passive-aggressive comments online, and my mother still tried to paint me as the problem. But their words no longer had power over me. I had built a new foundation for my life, one where I was the one in control. Eventually, the guilt trip slowed, the messages became less frequent, and the family's attempts to pull me back into their orbit faded. They realized that I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. And the twins? I found small ways to stay connected with them on my terms. I sent them birthday gifts, letters, and little reminders that I still loved them, even if I wasn't there every day. I couldn't control what Kate told them, but I could make sure they knew that I cared in the ways I was able. A year after I first moved into my apartment, I hosted another gathering, this time, not just a small housewarming, but a celebration. A celebration of freedom, of growth, and of a life I had created for myself. My closest friends from work, my book club, my pottery class, and even someone special I had been dating all gathered in my home, toasting to new beginnings. As I looked around the room, I felt something I hadn't in a long time: peace. I had let go of the fear, the guilt, and the need to please people who would never truly see me. I had chosen myself. This wasn't just a new chapter. This was my story, and for the first time, I was the one writing it. The end. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more real-life stories as they unfold.